yeah.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. We're back. We are back. Oh, feels good to be back. Episode 2, here we come. I'm by myself today. Little solo dolo action. But yeah, dude, Easter has just passed. That's insane, actually. Like, how are we already in April? How are we 4 months into this year already? That is just crazy to me. Like, I feel like it was yesterday we were popping fireworks on January 1st, and now He is risen. I love Easter, though. I wonder, like, now that we're 4 months into the new year, or I guess 4 months into the year, it's no longer new, how many New Year's resolutions have failed? Like, what percent? Like, probably, like, 99.8 probably. I wonder how many New Year's resolutions failed within the first week or two. Like January 14th comes, like how many New Year's resolutions failed? I don't know why New Year's resolutions fail so much. I don't know. I think people set these goals and after a couple of days they realize, oh, this is harder than I thought. Like I was amped up. I was ready to go. People want to lose weight. People want to stop smoking, all this different stuff. But once you get in it, like once you start it, it's like, ooh, this is hard. And then you start realizing, oh, this is why people are addicted to this. This is why people can't stop this and all these things. It's hard. For me, I kind of set New Year's resolutions. I set goals. So I guess that is the definition of a New Year's resolution. I set goals and I write them down in a journal. And at the end of each year, end of December, for the last like 2 weeks, I'm just praying and I'm fasting and I'm just really searching after what it is God has for me. Like, all right, God, what are we doing next year? What are we doing for 2023? And usually I have a word of the year. And this year, the word for 2023 was persistence. Being persistent. And to be persistent is to move after something, to move in the direction you're going in face of opposition. To move forward while things are trying to pull you back. And I think that's why New Year's resolutions and just plans and goals fail in general, is because people are lacking persistence. People want to go after a goal, they want to go, but when things get hard, when things start to push back, they give up. It's easy to get fired up about a goal. It's easy to get fired up on the new year and say, all right, we're doing this, we're going to go lose weight, we're going to go do this, this, and this. But once you're a couple of days in, you're like, oh, this is hard, and then you give up, or you want to lay in bed a little bit longer because you're lazy, and things get hard, and we don't have persistence. And I really felt like God was telling me, this is the year for you to be persistent. Because anything good that comes, anything in life, anything in the world that we see that comes to fruition did not come through some easy way. Everything that comes and everything that grows has to go through persistence. It has to go through some trouble. It has to go through some heartache. You think about working out. If I want to get jacked and I want to get super big muscles or whatever, I have to go to the gym. But after my first couple of days in the gym, I'm going to be really sore. But soreness is your muscles tearing apart. And when your muscles start tearing apart, they grow back stronger. So if I never go to the gym and I never get sore, then I'm never going to grow muscle. In order to grow muscle, I have to hurt. I have to go through the pain. And so many people want these things in life. They want their goals to succeed. They want blessings and they want purpose and they want fulfillment, but they're not willing to ride it out through the whole process. For me, some of my goals were like, I want to finish up school this year. And I'm really bad at school. Like I have trouble focusing. I'm bad ADD. So that's some persistence for me, is like staying persistent in school, trying to focus up, trying to finish. I want to read more. I'm trying to read more books because, again, I just can't focus. This very podcast is one of my goals. In my notes, it said, get podcast rolling. Do it. And that takes persistence for me, is because there's a lot of people, I know, who always are like, what are you doing? Like, a podcast, that's stupid. Everybody has a podcast. Or these like old heads, they're like, oh, well, what's a podcast? Why are you starting that? You should be, getting a real job, or, it's always something. So just staying persistent in what I feel like God has for me and just pushing through. Because so many people, they look back and they're like, man, I regret not doing this. Man, I really wish I would have done that, or I really wish I would have done this. But the truth of the matter is, they gave up because they weren't persistent. They gave up because they couldn't handle the heat. If you would just handle the heat, if you would just move and you would just take it head on, just go for it and just push for it and be persistent in it. Just watch what God has on the other side. Just watch what purpose and what fulfillment you're going to have whenever you do conquer this. Nothing good comes without trouble. And I think we live in a world where we want to be seen by everybody. Social media is just popping. Everybody wants to be on social media. Everybody wants likes. Everybody wants followers. Everybody wants people to see them. People who go to the gym, they want to look good. They want to be buff. They want to be shredded. People want to be the smartest kid in the class. Everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants the spotlight on them. But so many people are not going through the proper development that is needed. They're not going through the proper stages. They're not going through the proper trials and tribulations. They're trying to just skip the hard part and be successful. They're trying to skip the gym and be swole, right? Think of a tree. We can all see a tree. A tree is big, it's tall, it's strong, it's sturdy. Like we see the tree. We notice, we can admire this beast of nature of a tree, right? The thing about a tree is it could never be that big if it never took time to develop underground. We can talk about how big and beautiful a tree is, but what we did not talk about is whenever the tree looked like a plant. Whenever the tree was taking time to widen out its roots and to get deeper and to get nutrients. It took time to develop. It took time to develop, and it did not look pretty when it was developing. It wasn't strong when it was developing. It wasn't big and no one was talking about it whenever it was developing. But now it went through the proper stages. Now it went through the root system and it got all the nutrients it needed and it got deep into the ground. So it built a foundation and now it rose up. And 15, 20, 25, 30 years later, we have a tree. Some of us want our goals to just be the snap of a finger. But sometimes it's going to be a long process. Sometimes it's going to be a long developmental process. But our culture, we want it right now. We think, oh, well, 2023 is here. I'm going to set my goals and we're going to get it done. No, dude, your goals may not come to pass until a couple years from now. You want your goal to succeed within the first 2 weeks. It may take until December 15th for it to succeed. I think if we would just understand persistence and understand, hey, we just got to keep going. We got to keep going because something better is on the other side. The Bible story that kind of went with this idea of persistence for me was David. And we know David as King David, and everybody knew David because he was king and he was balling and he was doing what David do, right? David in the Bible is considered a man after God's own heart. That is what I strive to be every day. Like one day when I die, I want my family to say Duke was a man after God's own heart, because that is just beautiful in my opinion. But David, before he was king, before he even slays Goliath, like before anybody knows who David is, he was like a shepherd boy. He was working out with the sheep and the goats. And God is ready to anoint a new king of Israel. So this guy comes up to this man named Jesse. Jesse is David's dad. And he pulls up and he's like, hey, one of your sons is going to be king. So Jesse lines up all his sons, except for David. He lines up all of his sons and he's like, well, okay, here they are. One of them will be king. So this guy, he goes by and he looks at each of them. He's like, no, he won't be king. No, he won't be king. And the thing about Jesse is he put all of his sons except for David. He put all of his sons that were bigger, stronger, all the ones who look like they could be king more, pretty much all his favorite sons. And he's like, no, this one won't be, this one won't be. He's like, none of these are going to be king. Like, is this all the sons you have? And then in the Bible it says, do not consider his appearance, because God considers the heart. That's around about what it says. And he's like, well, there is the other son out in the sheep and the goats. We can go. And he's like, go send for him, and we will not sit until he comes. So Jesse, his dad, did not even call him by his name, bro. He's like, well, there is one more. Like, he's out there, like, doing what he do, right? He was hated on by his own dad. So David comes, and he's like, that's him. That's our king. And it was like, oh, okay, David's going to be king. But the thing that no one realizes is David not just become king. David got anointed, and then he went right back to the sheep and the goats. David knew he was going to be king, and he went right back to where he was supposed to be, and he was going to stay there until God called him into his place. He was anointed to be king, but he was not going to become king until the current king was gone. So time comes, and David, his dad asked him, hey, David, you need to go take this food to your brothers. They're over here fighting with this Philistine guy, which is Goliath. So David is like Uber Eats, and he goes over to take food over to his brothers, and that's whenever he encounters Goliath, and that's whenever he fights Goliath, and it's a big story. But what he says is, they're like, you can't fight Goliath, you're just little guy, whatever. And he's like, well, what y'all don't know is, whenever I was back with the sheep and the goats, I had to fight off a bear. A bear came and I had to fight it off. And then a lion came and then I had to fight it off. Y'all weren't there for that, but I was doing what God was calling me to do. Even though the lights weren't on me, even though no one was talking about me, I was in the position that God called me to do. Even though it wasn't glorious, even though I wasn't getting talked about, I was where God had for me. And because of that, I had to fight a bear. And because of that, I fought a lion. Because I was where God called me to be, it caused me to develop in the areas. And now I am capable of taking out Goliath. If David would have never went back to be with the sheep and the goats, so many people are not willing to serve. So many people do not want to take this low status because they're like, dude, I'm trying to be up here. I'm trying to be, a CEO. I'm trying to do these things. And God's like, no. How about you serve me down here? Show me how faithful you can be down here, and let me bless that. And because David was faithful with where he was, even though no one talked about him, not even his dad, no one really cared about him, if he would have never stayed there, he would have never been in the opportunity to go and fight Goliath. And if he would have never fought Goliath, he would have never gotten into the kingdom. And if he would have never gotten to the kingdom, he would have never been able to be king. It's just the whole cycle. And no one looks at it as that. Everybody looks as, okay, this is the goal I want. We got to get there. But there's a process. There's a process of God trying to develop you. There's a process of God trying to equip you in ways that you just don't even see the bigger picture. We have to open our eyes to the bigger picture that God has for us, because there's things that we have to learn. We were, I guess about a year ago, we were making a transition in our church. We were pretty much like revamping our worship room. Now we were putting in 50 or like 75 new like big LED lights. We were putting in some spotlights, trying to make our stage look really good, like a modern worship room. And it took us months to finish everything. But my job, because I'm like the smallest guy here, I guess, I had to crawl under the stage. And I was like under the stage. It was like dusty and crusty and musty. It was like nasty under there, bro. And I had to crawl under the stage and like feed wires up and move things from place to place. And that was my job, running under the stage, making sure things get put where they need to go. And I was like, dude, this sucks. Like, what am I doing here, bro? Like, I'm just like the maintenance man at this church. Like, what am I doing? And I felt it so clearly, the Holy Spirit tell me. He said, Duke, everybody wants to be on the stage. Everybody wants the spotlights. But are you willing to work under the stage? And I was like, dang. And that's the question I have for everybody is, are you willing to go under the stage? We all want the platform. We all want the stage. We all want the lights. We all want people to see us. But are you willing to be faithful? And are you willing to serve God in a lowly position? Are you willing to go under the stage? And from that moment on, I was like, nah, this don't suck no more. Let's go. And that just changed my whole mindset going into this year. Was like, I don't know what God has for me. I don't know how big it's going to be or how small it's going to be, but God's going to use it. And that's just the beauty of how God works. But that's also the reason why people fail so much. They fail in their own personal goals. They fail in their Christian walk. Their relationship with Christ is because we are so not realistic about how things work. We want instant gratification. We want things to happen now, but there's a process, and God is trying to equip you for something better. In James, one of my favorite books, the Bible, James talks about trials, the trials that we go through in life. He says, trials bring perseverance. Perseverance builds character. I don't know whatever season you are in life, but the trials that are coming your way, all you have to do is just get through them. All you have to do is just continue to move forward. Be perseverant in that. Move forward through these trials. And that trials, they're going to bring perseverance in your life. And once you have perseverance, that's going to build your character. Don't run away from trials. Don't run away from the things that are happening, the things that are trying to pull you back. Be persistent, because being persistent is going to build your character. It's going to build perseverance. And that is who God wants you to be. So many people cannot be who God wants them to be because we are running away from the challenges. We are running away from the things that seem hard, but those are the very things that are going to make us. Those are the very things that's going to take us from here to there. David did not just get to be king. David had to serve. And whenever David was serving, he had to fight. He had to fight off bears and lions. And after he did that, he had to go up here and he had to deliver food for his brothers. He had to fight Goliath. And then he had to go up here and he had to go play music for the king whenever there was demons. There is levels to life. You're not going to go from servant to king in one day. There's going to be trials, and there's going to be things that aren't fun, and there's going to be people who say stuff to you. Keep on pushing, because that's going to bring perseverance, and your perseverance is going to build your character, and your character is the exact thing that God needs from you. He just needs a heart that is willing to serve, a heart of a man or of a woman who is willing to just say, you know what, I don't know what today holds, but I know who holds today. I don't know what I'm going to be doing today, but as long as I'm doing it for Jesus, I'm going to be okay. And that is what we're supposed to do. We have to be men and women of God's own heart. Whatever his will is, we're going to do. Who cares if anybody sees you? Who cares if you're on the platform? Who cares? Because if God be for us, who can be against us? If God has it in our best interest, then that's where blessing is going to be. That's where fulfillment is going to be. Jeez. I think we just give up too easy. I think after all that being said, I think we just give up too easy on goals and things. You see, we all have a part to play in life. Life is a puzzle, and you are a piece of that puzzle. The puzzle is God's design, and you are this piece, and I am a different piece over here, and so might be a corner piece over here. So many times we try to do things that we don't want to do. Like we try to go and we're trying to be like someone else, or we're trying to act like this. We're just trying to get out of, I don't know. We're just trying to leave out of the situation we're in, and we're trying to go live in a different situation so it's easier or it's better. But the truth is, if you have to play your role, like you may be called to be in Livingston, Texas, like I am. You may be called to be in Africa and serve as a missionary. You may be called to be a teacher. You may be called to be a pastor. Whatever your role is, you have to play out that role, because people, so many times, they try to go play a different role. Well, I don't know, this role kind of is trash. Like David was a shepherd. Like, ain't nobody want to be a shepherd. Like, I'm going to go play a different role. I'm going to go do this. But if you go play a different role, there's going to be a hole in the puzzle piece. There's going to be a hole where you left it. But if everybody was focused on what they are supposed to do, no matter what anybody says, no matter if anybody's looking or not, if you play your role in life, then we can complete this puzzle of life. The reason why there's some people in the world who still have not heard the gospel is because there's people who aren't going out there to reach them. My calling is supposed to be here if I like it or if I don't. Your calling is supposed to do whatever God has for you, whether you like it or whether you don't. And we are making it so much more difficult by trying to be people we're not, by trying to impress people we're not. Like, people acting outside of God's plan and God's provision, people acting outside of that, what we are doing is we are leaving a hole in the puzzle. We have to be persistent in what God calls us to do. And we have to just be okay with who we are, okay with God's plan. Some people just think they're not good enough, or they think what I'm doing is just meaningless. What I'm doing is just not important. You know how many people in the Bible who we read about as doing great things, they started off by doing not important things? Like David, like we just talked about, doing not important things. God has us in stages of life to see, are you going to serve me here? How can we reach everybody with the gospel if we're all trying to act like each other? If I'm trying to act like you and you're trying to act like so-and-so and they trying to act like so-and-so, we can't all reach the people we're trying to reach. I'm here to reach Livingston, Texas right now. I have a friend who's out in Guatemala. They're over in Guatemala right now. They're going to reach them. If I'm trying to act like they are, then I would not be in the place of Livingston, Texas where I'm meant to be. Right? And if Christians would just do what Christians are supposed to do, we would then see us move and we would then see the gospel spread around the world. Just because what they're doing may seem more glorious. They might be in a different country. They might be doing missionary stuff, and you might be stuck at a church in Livingston, Texas, like me. Their stuff may look more glorious, but it's not, because God has called me here. And if God has called me here, that means I have a duty to do here. And that means I have to write it out regardless of what I want. And me writing it out here, God is going to bless that. And God is going to bring fruit into that situation. Be persistent. 1. 2, be okay with who you are. Be okay with where God has you right now. These things are holding people back. And I think once we can grasp the idea that serving is ultimately what we're called to do, just be servants. Whatever it is that he wants, we're going to do. But we're so scared of what people think. We're so scared of what people are going to say. We're so scared of blah, 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 blah. Like, ministry ain't sexy, bro. Like, serving God ain't sexy, bro. It really is not. Like, people want like these glorious things to do. Like, if you're serving God the way you're supposed to, bro, it does not look good. It's not fun. People might laugh at you. People might judge you. It might be nerve-wracking. Like, it's not a good time all the time. I'm reading this book, and it talks about persecution, and it talks about persecution in other countries. And, you know, other countries, obviously, people are getting killed for their faith. And some countries, people are being arrested. And in America here, it's more of like, you know, Christians here are just nervous because they don't want people to like make fun of them, or they don't want people to laugh at them, or they don't want people to judge them, things like that. But their definition of persecution was this: someone keeping people from hearing the gospel and keeping people from spreading the gospel. That's what persecution is. Keeping them from talking about the gospel, keeping them from hearing about the gospel. And they said, how many Christians are in that category? How many Christians under that definition would be considered a persecutor? Because Christians who are not spreading the gospel, they are 1, keeping themselves from spreading the gospel, and 2, keeping people from hearing the gospel. God has put you in positions to speak about your faith. God has put you in positions to spread his word. You keeping yourself from talking about it because you're nervous, you are keeping yourself from it, and you are keeping those people from hearing it. That is persecution. I heard that and I was like, dang, bro. How many Christians can we call persecutors here? because they're nervous. You not spreading the gospel, you are keeping others from hearing the word. And just like being a part of the puzzle, just like playing your role, you are going to reach people that I cannot reach. My friend in Guatemala is going to reach people that I cannot reach. My friends around the state of Texas, they live in different cities. They're going to reach people I can't reach. The students that I work with, they're going to reach kids in school that I cannot reach. So if God puts people in your life who don't know Jesus, that is for you to fix. If you're in class and the kid next to you does not know Jesus, why would you, like, we're just like, oh, well, hopefully he hears about Jesus at some point. Jesus next to me doesn't know Jesus. Hopefully he'll hear about him at some point, but no, I'm not going to say it because I'm shy. I'm nervous. I don't want him to think I'm weird or something. So hopefully he hears about Jesus. Bro, Jesus is in your class because you're supposed to tell him about Jesus. We just like, oh, I hope he hears about Jesus by someone else. God put them in your way so you can tell them. You being too nervous, you being too shy of people judging you, you are holding the gospel back and you are keeping them from hearing the gospel. That is persecution. Your part in life, wherever you are in life, that is your plan. If people are in your plan who do not know Jesus, they are for you to talk to. People who come into my life who do not know Jesus, they are for me to talk to. If we can just talk to the people in our life about Jesus, loving our neighbors, doing everything the Great Commission tells us, everything that Jesus tells us to do, then we would see life change all around us. But no, we're too shy. No, we care too much about what people think. It's wild to me. Wild to me. And I read that in that book, and it said how many Christians would be considered persecutors by those guidelines, and I was like, yeah, that's a wrap. And that's another part of where persistence comes. You have to be persistent in sharing the gospel. You have to be persistent whenever it comes to being a witness. Because, some people are going to say some mean stuff to you. Some people are going to laugh at you. Some people are going to judge you. You might come up to a brother or to a sister and say, hey, do you know the love of Jesus Christ? And they may be like, fool, get out my face. It may happen. It probably will happen if you're doing it right. Like, if you are a witness of Jesus, if you are spreading the gospel, persecution will come. People will judge you. People will do these things. It's not like if persecution comes, if people judge me. No, it will come. But you have to be persistent. Oh, it doesn't matter if I'm scared. It doesn't matter if they think I'm crazy. I'm going to love them. I'm going to at least talk to them about Jesus. They don't want to hear from me. I'm going to just give them a little snippet. Hey, God died for you. Shut up. Okay. Do whatever you can do. But holding yourself back. Oh. The only thing stopping you is you. The only thing stopping these people who don't know Jesus from knowing Jesus is you. Y'all just keep playing. Yep. I need a sip of my drink real quick. I'm getting a little parched in here. You're the problem, bro. Imagine. Start roasting y'all. You were all worthless. But for real. The reason why more people don't know the name of Jesus is because Christians don't share it. If all the Christians were doing their job and sharing the gospel, more people would know the gospel. As a Christian, the Bible talks about us being sheeps amongst wolves. Sheeps going into a world full of wolves. If you're a sheep, bro, if I'm a sheep and I'm going into a pen full of wolves, they gonna eat me. They gonna fight me. They're gonna try to do something, right? And that's what the Bible tells us. That you're going to be sheep amongst wolves. This world is not our home. This world is not going to like us. This world is not going to be like, oh yeah, just come on in and you will be fine. No. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, they're not going to like you. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, there is going to be persecution. The Bible says there will be persecution, bro. Because you're a sheep amongst wolves. But you are still called to share the gospel. You are still called, no matter how you feel, no matter if people like you, no matter what kind of clout you have or not, you are still called to love them. You are still called to share them, to share with them, to witness to them. It doesn't matter how you feel. And that's why, going all the way back to what we just talked about earlier, that's why New Year's resolutions fail. Is because it's all about how we feel. I just don't feel like waking up and going to the gym. Okay. Then don't expect to be healthy. Like, don't expect to get in shape like you wanted to. Well, I really just don't feel like, I'm just busy. I can't read my Bible. I can't do all these things. Okay. Then don't expect a deeper relationship with Christ. Oh my gosh. Y'all ain't ready for all that. That have to be for another time. You have to want to be persistent. Pushing through even though there's pushback. Pushing through even though people are pulling at you back. Pushing through even though there's challenges ahead. There's a road sign coming in. It's a road sign and all it says is rough road ahead. I took a picture of it because that's what life is. Rough road ahead. Hey, if you continue down this path, if you continue doing what God's called you to do, rough road ahead. It's still a road, though. That road, it told me rough road ahead. It still got me here, but it was rough. There was rocks, there was holes, it was bumpy. My car was tripping side to side, but it still got me here. Some of y'all see rough road ahead and you're like, let me take a detour, bro. Because you want smoother roads, because you want an easier way. No. To get to where God called you to be, you got to go through that rough road. Rough road ahead? Good. Take me in. 4-wheel drive this bad boy. Let's go. Rough road ahead? Count me in. Don't be scared of the rough road. Don't be scared of the developmental stages of life. Don't be scared of the process. Stop giving up because of the process. Stop running away because there's opposition. Push through. Give yourself 30 days, dude. Give yourself 30 days of chasing after your goals, chasing after what God has for you, chasing after a deeper relationship. Chase after these things. No matter what's coming, no matter what challenges, no matter what pushback, no matter what things are pulling at you, be persistent. And just see what God has for you on the other side. See what God has. Everybody wants to be on the stage. But are you willing to serve him under the stage? Are you willing to do things for him that aren't glorious? That's bars. Voice crack. That's bars. Okay. That's all I got to say, I guess. Big talk on persistence, I guess. Stay persistent. Don't expect God to do things if you aren't going through the rough road. Don't expect God to bless your life if you aren't serving him. Don't expect God to give you big opportunities if you aren't serving him with the small opportunities. All right. Represent Podcast. Follow us on everything. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, YouTube, everything. Love y'all. Stay persistent. See y'all next week. Peace.